Here we go, can we believe it? It's that time of the month again when it comes to Craft Club. It's month number 12 and this is all about our Duet Inkpads. Shall we have a look and see exactly what you're going to be getting? Well, we've got our inspiration guide here of the card. Now you're going to get over 44 pieces within this set. Now when it comes to your Craft Club number 12, you're going to be getting your technique booklet here. Now you've got the QR code to just zap with your camera app. That's going to take you to top tips, stamping top tips, and then it's going to take you to your step-by-steps. You've got all these different techniques that you could be trying. Within this booklet, we've got 7 techniques that you can follow, and you've got your notes as well. Be creative and you can start to do all your own techniques. Now to do the techniques, you're going to need product. Well, here we go. Let's dive in. We're going to go into our plastic wallet here. Now this is all about our Duet Inkpad. So not only are we going to give you 1, 2 or 3, we're going to give you 4 of our Duet Inkpads. These ones are kind of like a hybrid ink pad. They're the best of the both when it comes to water reactive and pigment. We've got waterfall, lemon meringue, raspberry ripple, and we've got soft heather as well. So those are your 4 Duet Inkpads. Then when it comes to blending, not only are we giving you a blending tool, we're giving you a blending brush. One of our Spectrum Noir blending brushes is in this set as well. So you can do your blending. Then what about doing your masking techniques? Well, we're going to give you 2 things. One of them is your masking tape. Now, when it comes to your masking tape, you're going to get 1.5 meters in length of your masking tape. Then what we're also going to be giving you is your masket roll. Now it does the same job, however, it's a lot wider and you can have that as long as you want. In total, you've got 10 meters. You can die cut it, you can do lots of different techniques with this and your Duet Inkpad. So you've got your masket roll in there. Then we're going to be giving you some of your cardstock. Now we're going to give you some of our watercolour card. Duet water-based ink pad, so your watercolour card is the best card to be using for anything water-based technique-wise, and for this 6x4 in size, and we're going to be giving you 15 sheets in there. Then we're going to be giving you additional elements to then build and create your projects. So we're going to be giving you clear stamps. Now it's a big sheet, 20 clear stamps in total. You've got that silhouette aspect, you've got the floral, you've got the foliage, you've got the animals, you've got fairies, you've got backdrops, you've then got backgrounds, and you've got some sentiments as well. So all of these you can build and set that scene on top of your Duet background. Then if you want to add additional detail, texture, we're going to be giving you a plastic stencil. Now when it comes to this plastic stencil, it's 1 sheet, however, use your masket sheet to then mask it off. You've got 6 individual detailed backdrops that you can be using to create more of a focal point to your card and your projects. Use your Duet to then ink through. So you're going to get that, all of those within that 1 stencil sheet you're going to be getting. So with the stencil sheet, with of course things such as your cardstock, your masket roll, your masket sheet, you're going to be able to do lots of cards, lots of projects. You're going to be able to do backdrops. You're going to then be able to do faux bleaching if you want to. You can then do things such as your normal square cards. You can do things such as your rectangle cards, but you can still do your concepts if you want to. It's about creating depth, it's about creating definition, and just creating detail when it comes to your cards and your projects. All those sorts of techniques that you can do, all the different ways that you can follow are within that booklet, and it is of course from Craft Club. It's number 12 and it's all about our Duet Inkpads. Now when it comes to our Craft Club, this one being of course month number 12 and it's all about the Duet Inkpads, we're going to start to build and pull the colour out to make a lovely but small card. Now we're going to be building out these elements of 3 of the 4 ink pads. We're going to use the stamp as well, so it's kind of giving you that reflection of water, but really, really simple to create. So let's get started. Let's take our sheet of watercolour card. Now remember, when it comes to the watercolour card, you get a full pack. You're going to get 15 sheets that are 4x6 in size. I'm then going to go in with my waterfall. I'm going to go in with my raspberry ripple, and I'm also going to go in with the actual soft heather. I'm also then going to take my blending brush. Now the blending brush, we're going to use the same one for all three colours. What we're going to do to start with is if we take our masket roll, and I've already taken a bit at the moment, but all that I would then do, take my masket roll, just chop it off, and all you want to make sure is that it is wide enough for your cardstock. So if I bring that up, I've also put just a little pencil line just at the halfway point of my cardstock, and I'm then just going to join that with the masket roll. So I'm going to go edge to edge there, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm masking off that bottom part. Don't worry if you've not gone right to the edge, because our ink's not going to come that far down. We just want to make sure that we are masked right across the centre there. So we've got our cardstock ready to go. I'm going to open up each of my ink pads here, my Duet Inkpads, and then we're going to start. Now, although we're using the same brush for each colour, I'm going to just start with the lightest, the medium and the dark. Don't worry about that. You can do dark, medium and then light if you want to, because all that we'll do is we'll take a scrap piece of cardstock just to help clean off our brush each time. So going in with our first colour, so we're going to go in with our first one being the waterfall. Actually, no, let's do our raspberry ripple. And all that I'm doing is I'm tapping, and just so that you can see, you get a real strong colour. So even although it's a light tap, you've still got an incredible intensity of colour each time. So tap that again. I do like to just do a little dab onto my glass mat, and then I'm just swiping. I'm just swiping to the sides. Don't worry about strong strokes or your lighter strokes. We just want to go in, and then we just want to create that swipe motion. And it's as simple as that. I'm then going to take my cardstock again, and I'm just going to, as if I'm lightly blending all that excess off. So even then you can keep this bit of waste afterwards, and then you can start to cut it or use it for backgrounds. But that's how I like to clean mine. I'm then going to go in this time with our waterfall. So if we go in with the waterfall, I'm just going to dab some of that off, and then I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to swipe up like so, dabbing and using that excess. What I can also do is I can go into the point of my brush and then just go in there with that fine point. As I said before, don't worry about it being stronger in parts, lighter in parts. You just want to build up that reflection when it comes to the lay down. Once again, that is it. You don't have to make it overly complicated. I'm going to go into my cardstock once again. It could be microfiber cloth, it could be kitchen cloth, it could be a damp towel if you want. As I say, just a fresh piece of cardstock is what I like to use. And then we're going to go in this time with the soft heather, and we're going to repeat that process. We're just going to dab it, and then we're just going to swipe. This one with the soft heather, I am intending on actually going more into that point, and then we're just going to swipe upwards. So we're just going to go in, and then we're just going to swipe. Now at first, you know, it looks a little bit of a mess, although it does look quite cool being that kind of halo haze sort of look. But then if we take that off, what we've then got is that crisp, clean line right across the centre. What we need to do is we're just going to turn that around. We're going to turn that around, and we're going to repeat that process. I've got a little inky finger mark there. For something like this technique, don't worry about it, because essentially we'll end up covering it up. And then I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to go back over my line before, and don't worry if you don't get it quite bang on, because what we are going to do is we're going to come along and we're going to use a little bit of black card just to then finish off that edge. If you see your masket roll or your masket sheet start to then peel back, because technically this is what we class as a wet ink pad, so therefore, you know, your dry adhesive with the wet doesn't always play together. So all that you're wanting to do is you can either heat set it with your heat tool, or I'm just going to go in and I'm holding it down. The key point of this is we're masking off. We don't want any of that crossover. So I just like to hold, either leave it room temperature to dry, or of course with your heat tool, then you can carry on with the process. But what we're then doing is we're just going to repeat exactly what we've done the first time. So we're going to go in with the raspberry ripple, and then I'm just going to then start to swipe. Starting onto my masket roll, and swiping upwards. And we're just going to get a lot of different intensities. You're going to get some light, some dark, some we're going to fade up to the top, some we're just going to get more of a pinpoint action when it comes to the actual point of the brush. And again, that is it. We're then going to go into our next colour, so we're going to go back into the waterfall. So let's take our cardstock once again and just blend that excess colour off. Move it out the way, hold that down, and then we're going to go into our waterfall. Pick that up, dab on glass mat, and then we're just going to swipe. We're going to swipe, pick up corners of the blending brush, and then we're just going to add that in just a few times, and then that is it. Take our card once again. So for something that is such an effective technique, it is very, very repetitive. So we're going to then lift that up, and then we're going to go to that final step, of course, which is with a soft heather. And you've guessed it, we're doing exactly the same. We're just going to blend that from our masket roll onto our cardstock. We're just then going to go in with a little bit of a darker element, and then we can then lift, and then look at that. How cool and how smart is that? At this point, what we can also do is if we come along with our either water or just a water spritzer. Now you'll have got one of these within some of our past Craft Club collections. I'm just going to then do a little bit of a light spritz. That's it. That's all that I'm doing. Now, when it comes to your Duet, what will happen? It works quite similar to your water reactive. But as we spritz water, if we then start to dab that excess off with kitchen roll or a microfiber cloth, with your water reactive, what will happen is you'll get a taint of that same colour at the back. But with your Duet, it quite literally, and the actual title of the technique is faux bleaching. It quite literally faux bleaches all the way back, and it takes you right back to that white cardstock at the base. I mean, how cool is that? You've got that haze on the water. It could be kind of your magical into the forest, into the kingdom. Whichever way that you want to use that, you can use it in many ways. I'm just going to dab that excess off with my kitchen roll, and then I'm also going to go along, for now, I'm just going to take my water and clean my glass mat. You can do all your water-based techniques with all of that excess that's on there. And then we can then start to finish this off. But the first thing that we need to do is bring in our stamps. So we're going to go in with all of the stamps that we've got. And I'm going to choose, let's go in with Decisions. Let's go in with this one here. And I'm going to use some black ink. Actually, let's go down to this one. So this is giving you kind of like the river wreath where it comes to that silhouette feel. I'm then going to come along with my 4x4 stamping platform. And I'm going to come along with my stamping mat. We're just going to hold that in, and I'm still following that line that I can see that I've created with the masket roll. We're going to go in with our stamp, and for this one, although I'm not going to do any more water-based techniques, I'm still just going to use my waterproof ink pad, this one being the Noir Black. I'm going to tap. We're going to make sure we've got a really strong coverage of the Noir Black. I'm going to come in about a third of the way in, and then I'm going to press, I'm going to lift. I mean, that's so cool, so cool. And we're going to repeat that process. Ink up, but this time, that's the way that we were a moment ago. This time we're going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to join the stem of that to the base. We're just then going to overlap slightly, get it into position, press that in, release, and then that's given us that silhouette aspect as if it's been on the water. Then we need to just finish it off. So to create that join, or to finish that harsh line of the join, piece of black cardstock. Now you're going to have black cardstock within your stash. We've had plenty when it comes to past craft clubs. So I'm going to use my tape runner for this one, and we're just going to then go onto the back. I'm just going to start at one end, and I'm going to work my way down, pick that up, and then we're going to go over, we're covering that join that we've created. We're going to then press that in, take away any of that excess adhesive. And what I've also done, using that stamp set, I've gone in and stamped out, sending lots of hugs. So a really, really nice, simple sentiment. You've got a few to choose from, but that's the one that we're going to use. We're then going to take what we've created. Let's add our tape to the back. Now, as you can see, I'm using my tape runner. You can use one of your wet adhesives if you want to. But if I then pick that up, I'm taking another piece of card. Now remember, that is 4x6, the watercolour card. So I've created just a very, very thin black border. So I'm just going to move that into place, and it's just a little touch, very fine, fine, fine black border. We're then going to come along with another piece of white card, which we're going to offset it. That fine black border is just going to elevate it ever so slightly by then taking my pokey tool, because I know that I've got my tape on the back. So this is just our tissue tape. Of course, you can use our tape runner like I've done before. We're just going to lift that up. That we're going to then pop onto our card, our white card, press that in. That's giving it an extra 1/4 inch matting layer. And now let's bring in our card blank to finish. 4.5 inches by 6 inches. And what I have done is a top fold card. Turn that over, and I've already got foam pads on. Bring in that little bit extra height to it. You don't have to. You can keep it completely flat if you want. But by just lifting up, and we're going to create a natural shadow because we've got white on white. But because we've lifted it with foam pads, it's going to give it a natural shadow all the way around. That light black matting layer all the way around. And then, of course, to finish off, we're going to go in with our sentiment, peel our foam pad off. We're going to go into that join just there, press, hold in, and then there we go. We've gone in with our Duet Inkpads, our blending brush, our stamp, and then also gone in with our watercolour card. We've created a really, really lovely water reflective backdrop for our card. And that's one of the cards, that's one of the projects that you can be making from Craft Club number 12, and it's all about our Duet Inkpads. Now, when it comes to our Craft Club, month number 12, which is all about the Duet Inkpads, yes, there's many techniques you can do with the ink pads, but there's many techniques that you can do involving the masket roll, and one of them is about creating our own border. So we've created our white border using our masket roll, and guess what? It's really simple to do. So we're going to go in with one of our watercolour sheets that we've got included. Remember, they are 4x6 in size, and you've got 15 of them. I'm going to go in with my masket roll here, and I'm going to just start to cut. Now, I'm going to go lengthways like that. I'm going to make sure that it's long enough, and then what we're going to do is we're going to chop up the middle here. And there's a reason I'm doing it this way, because we want to make sure that we've got two completely straight edges. So by doing that and chopping up the middle, it means I know that the opposite side are the straight edges. What we can do is we can then just start to line up on our glass mat. So for this one, I'm going to come up about 1.5 inches, and I'm going to use the grids within my craft mat. So I'm going to line that up with one of the 90-degree corners. We're going to come up 1.5 inches, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to go in, and then we're just going to press that into place. We're going to turn that around, and then we're going to do exactly the same when it comes to the other side. And these, although we are going to end up inking these, you can reuse them time and time again until the tackiness has completely gone, because they're not overly sticky, they're just a tacky adhesive roll. So we're going to line that up again with our chosen grids and lines within our glass mat. We're going to press that in, and then that is now me good to go. If you want to cut the excess for now, you can do, but what this also does is it holds it. It helps hold it to your glass mat, your craft mat, or wherever you're working. Now, to start with, when it comes to the blend, we're going to use raspberry ripple and lemon meringue, and then we're going to do a little bit of a water-based technique with the waterfall afterwards. So to start with, we're going to go in with the two. Now, we're going to take our blending brush that you get included as well, one of our Spectrum Noir blending brushes, so dense that you don't have to worry about the colour going all the way through. The colour just sits on the top, so therefore you're able to go from a light to a dark, or maybe a light to a medium medium and you're not going to get cross-contamination, as long as you clean it like I'll show you. Now I'm going to go within the base here within the lemon meringue and the top with the raspberry ripple. So for me, it's a lot easier to turn it on its side and for me to blend from the side. So let's go in with our lemon meringue. I'm going to then start to build up that colour on my brush. I like to go in onto my glass mat to start with, or my craft mat, just to get that ink starting to flow, and then we're just going to go direct onto our card. And at first, certainly when it comes to the lemon meringue, it doesn't look like you've got much colour. And what I'll do is I'll show you, if I peel that back, look at that. At first, you don't always think there's colour, but until you do the reveal, that's when you notice that it is quite strong. So keep that in mind. You know, if you're just wanting a light touch of a colour, then just go in light to start with, and you can always peel back and double check. So we're just going to keep going in straight onto our Duet Inkpad. We're just going to go in with the lemon meringue, and I'm only going to come roughly about halfway. You don't need to worry about any harsh middle because we're going to blend that out. So once we've gone in with your chosen colour, I'm then just going to flip this one around. I'm going to take a piece of cardstock and I'm just going to start to clean that brush. That's all we need to do to stop any colour transferring over. So I can move that out the way now. I'm going to put my lid back on, and we're going to go in with the raspberry ripple here. And I'm going to repeat that process. We're going to dab into the raspberry ripple. I'm going to take some off my glass mat just to get the flow of the blend, and then I'm going to keep going straight back in. I like to start within my masket roll and then blend onto my cardstock. So we're just going to keep going and going. Any harsh lines, don't worry, with the brush, so dense, what's going to happen is we're going to end up blending that out. And then essentially what we're going to end up doing is we're going to blend the raspberry ripple into the lemon meringue. So we're just going to keep going in. I'm not worried about the centre part at the moment. I'm more focused on getting my raspberry ripple down. Then we can then start to blend the two together. Other thing to watch with the Duet is the oils on your finger. If you hold that down with your finger, you're going to transfer your fingerprints from the oil. So keep that in mind. We're okay because we've got our masket roll, but if you're doing a technique where you're not using masket roll, take a scrap bit of cardstock, overlay it so you can hold the card down with that blank piece of card, and that's going to stop any transfer of the oils. So we're just going to do a little bit more when it comes to the raspberry ripple, and now at this point we're going to go in, we're going to blend down that centre. So I'm not going to clean my brush or that at the moment, just going to go in with a little blend, take any excess off my glass mat, and then we're just going to go into the centre, and we're going to go up, down, circular motions, and then you'll start to see, look at that perfect blend. Spot on blend, and that's what you're going to get when it comes to Craft Club Duet Inkpads with the blending brush here. So what we're then doing is we're just going to continue to finish off, and then that's it. That's all that we need to do with those two colours. So that was raspberry ripple, and then that was also your lemon meringue. This point, before we take that off, we're going to turn that around, and then we're going to come along here with the waterfall. So we've got the waterfall, and then we're going to come along with our water. So just some water, tap water in a cup, and then we're going to come along. We're going to then take our brush as well. We're going to take our brush, I'm just going to go direct in, and then what we're going to do is pick that water up. I'm going to take as much off as I possibly can, and then we can then start to pop the waterfall onto my glass mat. Just a little square, pick it up, take that excess, I'm going to set that to the side for a second, take some of that excess water off, and then before we remove the masket roll, we're going to pick that blue up, and then we're going to lightly tap. This will do two things. It's going to create a faux bleached effect, but when we lift that colour up, it's going to lift a lot of that blue up, but it's going to leave a blue tinge afterwards. So taking your heat tool, or leave it to dry at room temperature, we're going to then start to bring in our kitchen roll. So we're just going to put our kitchen roll over the top, and we're just going to press, taking any of that excess water, we're going to release. We've got that faux bleach, we've got that speckled effect, but we've got halos of that blue. Then again, before we take that off, what we're going to do is we're going to choose our stamp. So I'm just going to clean this off first of all, get rid of that excess ink. Don't you waste it at home. Spritz it with water, another piece of that watercolour cardstock, spritz with water, dab in, create your own background. But I'm going to now come in with my stamps here. So you can choose whichever one that you want to go for. I'm going to go in with this open petal flower head here, and we're going to take that off. We're going to make sure that we are using our water-based ink pad. So we're going to use our waterproof Noir Black, and there's a specific reason for that. We're going to bring in our stamping platform. So we're going to bring in our stamping platform, and we're going to then pop our stamp into position, overlay. I'm going to move it to the side for the moment, because what I do want, if I stamp right now, what we're going to do is we're going to get a cut off top and bottom of the flower, which will look nice, but I want an kind of a 3D overlay. So I'm going to take these off, keep using them, just pop them onto a scrap bit of cardstock, pop them into your craft club bag, and then you can keep using them. I'm going to take that one off like that, and then there we go. We've done our mascot border, top and bottom. How cool is that? Really effective, really simple, but it packs a punch when it comes to the eyes. Now we're going to go back in with our stamp, Noir Black. We're going to ink up. So we're going to ink by pressing, and at this point you do need to make sure that you're waterproof, because we're going to do another technique in a moment. What I'm doing is the top of the flower, I'm going to come just below that masked line, so we're going to get a little bit of an overhang, which I'm wanting. So we're going to go towards the left hand side. I'm going to press, hold that in. Once I've got it in place, release. We've got that overlay and that really effective bottom point with, of course, the stem from the flower. Now, because I have used my waterproof ink pad, what I'm now doing is if I come in with some water once again, so if I take my brush, my large brush out, I'm going to go in just with my smaller brush. And what I'm also doing is I'm going to come along with another bit of kitchen roll, microfiber cloth, as long as it's dry. I'm going to go in with my water. If you've got a finer brush, that would be better. But I'm going to colour inside the flower. And what that's going to do is that's then going to create a faux bleach. So we're essentially pulling that colour out, but we are in control as to what element we are pulling out. So take my brush, I'm going to do the same within the flower head. We're just going to go in, we're going to colour with our water. I'm going to use my kitchen roll, I'm going to dab that off, and now we've got a white flower head. Go back in, excess off. I'm going to then go and colour, leave that a sec, dry bit, clean bit of kitchen roll, dab that in. We've now got a white flower head. I'm going to do the same with the actual leaves here. Take the excess water. Make sure you don't have lots of water on, otherwise it's just going to pull out. So we're just going to dab, making sure each time I've got a clean bit of kitchen roll. Take my brush, my water, dab, and then we're going to do that last one in there, colour, dry bit of kitchen roll, and then we're going to dab that off. So we've created our faux bleach background with our waterfall ink pad, where it's then creating, of course, that faux bleach, but with a tinge of blue. And then what we've done, because we've used our waterproof ink pad with the stamp, I've been able to go in and then I've coloured in there with my water, and then just used my kitchen roll to dab it away. So we've now got the white flower heads. Then all we need to do is finish off. So let's take my tape runner. I'm going to go all the way around with my adhesive. Now I'm just going to go in straight. Ideally, if you just leave that to dry for 20-30 minutes or heat set it with a heat tool, but as you can see, I'm absolutely fine going straight in. Now your card is 4x6, so I've given myself a very light black batten layer, and then my white layer on the outside is 1/4 inch bigger. I'm going to go in with my card blank, which is 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. I've got my tape on here, so I'm just going to take my Crafter's Companion tissue tape off. I'm not going to add any foam pads to this back layer. We're going to keep this flat because we're going to add a foam pad with our sentiment. We're going to press that over the top, hold that in, press in, and then we can take our chosen sentiment. I've gone in with sending lots of hugs. That's on a foam pad. I'm going to cross over between my border and my backdrop, hold, press, and then there we go. We've created our masked border and a little bit of faux bleaching when it comes to that backdrop and also the flower. And that is one of the projects that you can be doing from our brand new craft club. It's month number 12 and it's all about our Duet Inkpads. Now when it comes to our craft club, this one being month number 12 and it's all about the Duet Inkpad techniques. Not only can you do a blend and you can do a water-based technique, but you can start to build your scene when it comes to the silhouette stamps. Now look at the scenes that you can start to create all with the craft club. So let's get started, and we're going to start with the blend. So I'm going to go in with one of the watercolour panels here. Remember, they are 4x6 and you've got 15 of them. I'm keeping it at 4x6, and we're going to go in with two of our ink pads to start with. That's Raspberry Ripple and Soft Heather. We're going to go in with our blending brush, and I'm also going to bring in just a piece of cardstock to the side so I can clean it off each time. Now when it comes to setting and building the scene, and you're going in with a couple, 2, 3, 4 of the Duet ink pads, you know, you can go in either direction, you can go in different angles if you want to, whichever way, it's entirely up to yourself. But for this one, for me, what I'm going to do is lengthways. We're going to go long from left to right. So I'm going to go in with the Raspberry Ripple to start with. We're going to build that up onto our brush, dab on to my glass mat to start with, and then we're going to blend onto our cardstock. So we're just going to go back and forth, back and forth. We're going to dab and blend on. Don't worry about the excess that you've got on your glass mat, because we're going to keep using it, so there will be no waste. We're just going to keep picking it up and blending onto our water-based cardstock. You can absolutely use the Duet ink pads onto your smooth white cardstock, but when you're doing anything water-based technique, you of course need to have your watercolour card. So use your white smooth cardstock, just make sure that you're not doing anything water-based on that. So let's keep going with that first one. I'm then going to go in once again. I'm sticking with the Raspberry Ripple. I'm going to kind of leave a channel. At this point, you can do Raspberry Ripple, you can do Heather, Raspberry Ripple, then Heather, but I'm just choosing to do both strips of the Raspberry Ripple to start with. And I'm just going to go in, and we're just going to then start to create that strip. I'm not worried and bothered about the harsh edges. One, we're blending out, and two, we're going to then come along with a splatter technique with one of the other colours that we've got. So just to then have that matching, I'm going to go in onto that first side that I've done. I'm just going to build that up a little bit more so that the intensity is going to match that strip that we've just done there. So we're just going to keep going back in, and then we will also then be coming along and blending with that Soft Heather. So happy with that. I'm going to take my cardstock, and this could be scrap card. It doesn't have to be a brand new sheet of card. Scrap will work absolutely fine. So dense are the brush, so you don't need to worry about your ink, your Duet, going all the way up the brush. It just sits on the top. That's why all we need to do with a bit of card is just take that excess off. I'm just going to make sure that I put my lid on each time, and then we're going to go in with the Soft Heather. So we can then either go direct or you can pick up. So you've got that best of both worlds. I've shown you going direct from your ink pad to your card. This time I'm showing you how you can then go from straight onto the glass mat, decant onto your glass mat, and then pick up. So you can do either or, going direct or going from your glass mat. Whatever is a personal favourite of yours, a personal preference, it's up to yourself. So we're going to repeat what we've done with the Raspberry Ripple, but this time with the Soft Heather. We're just going to create those channels there. And I'm going to turn it around. Now at this point, if I hold with my fingers, the oil in my finger, my fingerprints are going to be shown through that background. So I'm just going to take that bit of cardstock once again. I'm just going to hold it down. Therefore, I'm going to get no fingerprints because I'm not actually holding with my fingers. So we're going to go into that end strip now with the Soft Heather. So I'm just going to rock back and forwards, up and down, not worried about the blend to start with. We just want to apply that colour. And you can do more than two if you want. I've just chosen to stick with the raspberry ripple and the heather. You can do 1 if you want, you can do 3. If you want to do the 4, it's entirely up to yourself. But let's go in there with the soft heather. And once I'm semi-happy with that, well, not semi, I am happy with that one, I'm just going to take some of that excess off again. Then what we're going to do is, again, because I've got that full backdrop now with the Duet coverage, I just want to make sure that I'm holding down with my scrap piece of cardstock. I'm just going to take my blending brush and we're just going to blend round circular motions, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to turn, overlay, and we're going to do that again. With your Duet, it is a kind of a hybrid ink pad, so it's the best of both worlds when it comes to your water reactive and also when it comes to your pigment. So if you want to use embossing powders, you can do, or if you just want to do simple techniques or lay and blend that down, you can do that. Now, I am more than happy with that now. Don't need to worry about any of these uneven lines, because what we're doing is we're going to then do a bit of full bleaching afterwards. So let's take my ink pads, I'm going to move them out the way. If you find that maybe your soft heather is a little bit too dark, just go back in with your lighter tone and then just start to overlay the whole lot, because your lighter tone, it's not going to completely cover that dark tone. You're still going to see the soft heather. It's just about, sometimes you just want to flatten the dark tone. And of course with this one, dark tone, I'm meaning the soft heather, because it is the darkest out the two. I'm just going to do the same on that side there. Just going to go in, blend in, and once I'm happy with that, which I am now, what we can then do is we can then go in with our waterfall. So let's move these bits out the way for now. I'm going to go in with my waterfall, and I'm going to pop that onto my glass mat. So we're just going to give a really, really nice coverage, little section onto our glass mat. It could be your craft mat. And then we're going to go in with our water spritz. So we're just going to spritz that with water, or you can go direct with a paintbrush and water, whatever you like. And I'm just going to go in with my water and my paintbrush. We're going to pick that up, and then I'm just going to then tap. So we're going to tap, and I want to give this quite a good coverage. I just don't want little subtle dots of the blue. I want a really good depth coverage. So we're just going to keep building and building and building. It is water-based, so if you do get any of your ink out with your glass mat or craft mat, don't worry. Just a wet wipe or warm water and a cloth, that's then going to take it all off. So we can see at that point then, that is where we are at. I'm going to add a little bit more in the middle there, just like that. And the more you tap with one application, the finer and finer it's going to get. So we're finished there, happy with that. Move my brush out the way because I don't need that anymore. And the longer you leave that, the more it's going to pick up all of that colour. So coming along with some kitchen roll here, I'm just going to flatten that out. So I'm going to overlay and I'm going to press. Now if I left that for quite a long time, that really is going to pull out the whole colour and just leave us with a little bit of white effect splatters. But if I move that out the way, we've got that full bleach, but look at that blue effect that we've got. Start to create that depth of the background, and we're overlaying, and that's what you can do with Duet ink pads. You can overlay. Lay one colour layer down, dry it, and then overlay with another, or maybe your stencils or your stamps, but you can do and lay as many as you like. So now we're at that point there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring one in that I've already done that's fully dried, which is that one. You can see the difference. You're never going to get two the same. This one I've gone stronger with the raspberry ripple and the soft heather. This one I've gone lighter and subtler, and that's the great thing. Never two exactly the same. Leave it to dry or heat set it with your heat tool. But once we've got it to this point, we can then start to stamp. So I'm going to bring in my stamping mat. I'm going to come along with my stamping platform, and I'm going to come in with my stamps here. So we can start to pick an array of these designs. So let's start with the dandelions, and you don't need to be specific with these either. You know, if you press and you miss a few little areas, don't worry, it all adds to that kind of dramatic effect. So I'm using my waterproof ink pad. Even although I'm not doing any more water-based technique, I'm still just going to use my waterproof ink pad. And then I'm going to come into position, and then I'm just going to start to build up my design. So we're going to press with the dandelions. I'm then going to just set that out the way for now. We can then come along, let's go in with our toadstools. So we're going to take that off our sheet. I'm going to stamp that one a couple of times, the toadstool. So let's press our ink into place. And for this, I'm going to do a second generation. So the first one is going to be first generation. Second generation means reapply without adding any more ink. So therefore you're going to get a tainted effect. You're going to get a lighter effect. You can start to create depth in the distance the more that you do that. Then we can move that out the way. We're going to come along with kind of like the grass along the bottom. But I don't want this whole lot. I only want the tips. So I'm just going to go along the top. I'm then going to start at the base. We're going to stamp, move, second generation, stamp, and then that's the base of our scene done. Move that out the way and build. Keep building and building and building. You've got all of these stamps to choose from, so start to use them. I'm going to pop that one into place. 20 stamps in total you're getting, all on that one sheet. And this one within that corner, I'm going to go at that top corner, press. Second generation, I'm going to come down, further down, and then press. And then I'm even going to do like a third generation in that corner and press. And let's try a fourth just into there and press. Can take that one off. Let's go in now with our, let's see what ones. We've got our tiny individual little dandelions. So let's go in. I'm going to go as if they are floating up towards the top. Ink up, apply, ink up, and then apply. And then one last thing for now, I'm going to go in with the bunny rabbit. You've got a bunny rabbit and you've got a fox. So we're going to take the bunny rabbit, we're going to pop that onto our stamping platform, and then we're going to ink up. Turn it around, and I'm going to come down into this space, down into here, press, and then that is my scene done. I can start to build up more depth if I want to, further around the edges if I want to, or I can do a lot less if I want to. You're in full control of how much that you want to build up that scene. Before we finish the card and assemble it, within the past craft club, we've got one of our pigment white pens. So I've taken one of the pigment white pens, and all that you need to do is come along and create additional highlight. If you want, we're going to go under the toadstools here. We're going to go round, under, creating that natural highlight. I'm just going to do little dots within the dandelions. We can then go round some of these aspect areas of our bunny rabbit, creating that highlight, working our way round as if it's in either the night sky, early in the morning, but you're going to come along and you're going to continue, if you choose to do so, add your natural highlights. Not essential, but while we've got it there from one of the past craft clubs, why not use it? So let's just do a last couple of highlights, and then that's all that I need to do. Move all that out the way, let's assemble our card now. So I'm just going to leave that white pen just to dry for a few moments, and I've got some simple mats and layers done. So I've created a white mat and layer for my 4x6 and then created my back layer. So this one, taking a tape off the back, or you can use your tape runner. I'm going to keep all of this flat. The only thing I'm going to create height with when it comes to foam pads, that's my sentiment, because you're creating that depth naturally anyway from your stamps. It doesn't always need extra foam pads or glue gel. Going on to a mat and layer that's 1/2 inch bigger with my black cardstock, and for that we're going to add that onto a card blank that I've created as a top fold or tent fold card. So this size of that one, 5.5 inches by 7.5. We're going to press that in, hold that in, bring in our scene that we've set with our duet and also with the stamps. We're going to take our tape off, and you might want to do this with some of the yellow. If you want to go in with some of that yellow, that lemon meringue would look nice, maybe like the sunset. Press that in. Just in case some of that's still a little bit damp, I'm just going to press with a bit of scrap cardstock, press that in, and then let's bring in our sentiment with our foam pad, sending lots of love, and I'm just going to cross over down into the bottom, and then there we go. We've created our splattered background, we've blended two colours together, and then we've used our waterfall. Start to set that scene when it comes to those silhouette stamps that you get included. 20 stamps to choose from, and that's from our craft club. It's month number 12, and it's all about our Duet Inkpads. With our craft club, this one being month number 12, and it's all about the Duet Inkpads, we can go quite dramatic when we set the scene when it comes to our cards and projects. This one is a ghosting effect. And how are we going to start that? Well, we're going to start it with two of our colours. So I'm going to go in with my waterfall, and I'm also going to go in with my soft heather. So we're also going to bring in one of the watercolour cardstocks. Now remember, 4x6 in size, and you get 15 of them. So we're going to do a little bit of a random background. So we're just going to go in with one of the colours to start with. Any one, doesn't really matter, but we're just going to start to build and blend. So we're going to go half. We're going to go direct onto the card, half we're going to go from the glass mat on. That's just going to give us that some of it's going to be a smooth blend, some's going to be a harsh blend, which is always going to help to create that dramatic scene. So we're going to go into sections with our waterfall to start with. I'm then going to move over into the soft heather. I'm not going to move the waterfall completely out the way in case I come back and use it more. Blend some of that excess colour off, and then we're going to go into the soft heather. So we're going to add that in. We're going to go into the remaining white areas of our cardstock, work it, blend it, and then we're just going to keep building over the top. I'm going to take another piece of cardstock just to hold down in sections so I don't get any oily finger marks. Work it in, and we're just going to keep going over what we've just done. I'm not over concerned about the harsh lines at this point where you've joined the soft heather and also the waterfall. We just want to get that colour down. So any remaining parts of white, we're just going to go in. And this will work should you do 3 colours or maybe even the 4 colours. Have a play. If you're not overly happy with it at the time, set it to the side, do another one, and at some point when you come back to what you've done for this project, you might not be overly happy about it, but you know it's going to work for a future project as well. So never discard anything that you've done. Even if you're unhappy with it, keep it, because I am telling you it will come in handy for another project. So we're just going to keep going in with the soft heather. Going to go back with the waterfall. Going to take some of that off, in with the waterfall, dab that colour, and then we're just going to start to blend all of those together. So work it in, back and forth, round and round, and because it's a duet, it's that hybrid. You've got the best of both worlds when it comes to your water reactive, being water-based, and also your pigment, where you can use things such as your embossing powder, because it's essentially it's like a sticky adhesive. Now I don't mean sticky as in, you know, sticks to your hand, but the ink itself, it's going to capture any of your embossing powders. So blend that in. So now I'm going to go in and blend the whole lot. I'm going to add a little bit more soft heather in a moment, but I just want to get that blend, work it round, twist, turn, all the way round until you're happy with the blend. And you can keep going. You can just keep going and it will slowly start to blend together. And once you're happy with the blend, as I say, I'm going to go in with the soft heather once again, just to intensify those sections. Add that in, into the corners, essentially where I've gone before with the soft heather, we're just reapplying. Dab that in, and then let's start to blend that out as well. Circular motions or back and forth, whatever you feel comfortable doing. So now that we're at that stage there, let's move all of these out the way, move my waterfall out the way, and I'm also just going to take a little cloth here and let's take some of that excess, clean that up before we come along with the next step, and that's bringing in our stencils. So move that out the way, bring that back in, and then there's our backdrop ready to go over with that ghosting effect. Now that ghosting effect we're going to do in 2 sections. So we're going to go in with the stencil first. You can section it off, but for something like this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist the stencil. So I'm kind of getting an element of each section. And within our past Craft Club editions, our tricolour aqua pens, you've got a water spritz, so it's just water in there. And while the stencil's in play, we're going to spritz. I'm going to come far back for a light mist, and we're just going to spritz over the stencil. We're going to leave that just for a moment or two. The longer you leave it, the more of the colour that's then going to be lifted up. You know, if you're then going for a short time, it's just going to be a small amount of that colour. But once you're happy, we're then going to come along with another bit of kitchen roll here. And if you are using kitchen roll, it can be the most inexpensive kitchen roll. And I'm just going to dab that excess off just now. So before I remove the stencil, I'm just going to dab that off, pull back. Then we're going to come in with our stencil and we're going to pull that off, and then you're starting to get all of that stencil design. It's not perfect because you're going to get that bit of a bleed from the water under the stencil. That's the whole purpose, the whole point of it. It's not going to be a perfect impression, but it's a cool impression. So I'm just going to go in with my kitchen roll and I'm going to dab all that excess water off. You can start to see that script work, that ornate corner. You're going to see that flourish as well, and you can see how that's been picked up. If you want to come along and do a little bit more, then you can do. And what I mean by that is if I just make sure that that section's dried, if you want to overlay once again, I'm going to put just a little bit of card just to section it off the moment, because I don't want to spritz the rest of the area. I'm going to spritz with water. We're just going to then go straight on. And once again, repeat that process where we're going to leave it for a second or two. Move that out the way. I would leave it a little bit longer, but for time, I'm going to pick, and you can see it really starts to pull even more of that colour up. Look at that. How fab is that? The longer you leave it, the more it's going to look. So let's take that excess off, move that out the way because I don't need the stencil, but we're going to continue now with that ghosting effect. So let's dry our mat. I'm going to come in with more dry kitchen roll here, and we're also going to come in with our water. Now I've got some water here, and I'm going to go in with a larger paintbrush to start with, and I'm going to be quite rustic with what I'm about to do here. I don't want it to be precise, so I'm just going to go in circular motion and creating the roughest of circles that I can possibly do. We're going to leave that for a second. Going back to what I said before, the longer you leave it when it's wet with water, the more, of course, that's going to lift that colour up. You can go back and apply more water afterwards. So now what I can do is let's go back with our kitchen roll, and I'm just going to press and lift. Look at that. So this is the point, as I said before, you can go back, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Let's go back with more water on our paintbrush, and I'm going to refine that circle that little bit more. So we're going to go and try and go for a circular moon shape. If you've got a stencil that is a circle, or you want something to lightly draw around, you can do that. But we're just going to leave that set just for a moment. We're going to go back, and then we're going to lift. And the more that you do that, the more it's going to pull, it's going to bleach that colour. I'm going to add a little bit more, dab that off, and then we're just going to paint and colour with water, work our way round, and it's the moon, so it doesn't need to be exactly perfect when it comes to the circle, but then we can then start to dab, and that is my background. My background now is ready to go when it's starting building up the scene. So let's dry that all off, move that out the way. I'm going to move my water out the way as well, and then we're going to come in with all of our stamps. So if we bring in our stamps, I'm going to bring in my stamping platform and my stamping mat. Going to have a look with, let's go in with the fairy. So move all that into the middle. We're going to hold that in. If you've got a large stamping platform with the magnetic discs, welcome to use that. But we're going to go in with the fairy here. We're going to take her off, add to our stamping platform, and I'm going to use my water-based ink pad. I'm not doing any more water-based techniques. I'm just going to go in with my water-based ink pad. Now this stamp I've not used yet, so therefore it just bubbles ever so slightly on the top of the stamp. So I'm going to take a bit of scrap cardstock and I'm just going to press. I'm going to take the excess off. The other thing you can do is use our watermark clear ink pad. You can use our stamp cleaner, or you can then come along with a little bit of low tack tape, put the tape over the stamp, peel it off. That'll take any residual material off of your stamp. We're now good to go, where we're going to get a really nice, crisp, clean impression. And for the fairy, we're going to go in and we're going to hover, just overlapping into that moon, the silhouette of the moon. Press that in. We're going to release, and we're going to continue building up our scene. So let's go down with our fox now. So we're going to come in with the fox, pop him or her into place. We're going to ink up. I've not used him before, so we're going to bring in that scrap piece of card again. We're going to press, ink, press. That's also helping to take any of that residual material off, and then we can come in and then apply. So the fairy's going to be looking down on the fox. I'm going to come maybe about an inch up. So we're going to come in with the grass, press in, and then let's have a look. Let's go in with our trees. So we're going with the tree, and that I'm going to do a second generation. So we're going to do a first, but also a second generation impression. Ink up and apply as normal. So I'm going to come to the left-hand side, like that, and press, and then I'm just going to move down towards the bottom right-hand corner slightly, overlapping and pressing. Look at that, the depth that you've got from that second generation bouncing off the reflection of that moon. Let's go in with the grass, the rest of the grass here, ink up. We're going to come along the bottom. I'm going to come just under the fox. We're going to lift. I want that same strength of black, so therefore I'm going to reapply, move to the side, and we're going to keep on going. And you can keep going, work your way along, because you can join within the middle with no overlap. And then just a couple of more bits. We'll go in now with some of the foliage. Let's go in with that corner foliage stamp into the middle. We're going to do what we've done with the trees, and that's a second generation. So let's go into the top corner, press. I'm going to come down a little bit further and press, and I'm going to reapply, and then we're going to come into this top corner, and then we're going to press, turn, press, and I'm just going to keep on going until all of my ink has disappeared. And one last thing, we're going to complete this bottom right-hand corner. We're going to go in with, let's go in with the toadstools here. In with the toadstools, add it onto our stamping platform, bring in our ink, ink up. This time, I don't want a first generation stamp, I want the second generation. So I'm going to stamp onto scrap, move it out the way, and then I'm going to come in, and then we're just going to press, and then that's going to give us that impression. Set the scene. We've done that ghosting effect with the moon, with the stencil, and then we're starting to build up that scene as well. The only thing we need to do is then just assemble the card, but before we do that, let's come along with our pigment white pen from a previous craft club. I'm going to give that a light little shake, and then you can then start to add natural highlight. Now you can see that it's not essential. You don't have to do it. Please don't feel as though you have to do it. But if you want to, then you get a really, really beautiful highlight. It just pulls out the detail of the wing, her skirt, even just where the moonlight is bouncing off the front of her legs and our arms. You can do the same around the fox, round the ears here, round where his legs would be, in with the tail, and I'm just doing little wispy lines within the tail there, coming around his paws at the base. And you can keep going and going and going. I'm just going to do a little bit within this tree and then finish and assemble my card. But if you then continue all the way round, you can then continue until it looks like that. But let's put that onto our card. So I'm going to come in with my layers. So with that being 4 by 6 in size, I've gone in with a little matting layer of white card and a little matting layer of black card. And each layer is only a couple of millimeters big, which I've done on my guillotine. We're going to overlay into the middle. And in case any of these black layers, the white pen is still a little bit damp, let's take our scrap and we're just going to press that in. If you've got a brayer tool, you can use that to press down, but that will do the job. Perfect highlight. All of our ghosting has been matched by the white highlight matting layer, finished off with the black, and then bringing our card blank here. That can get added on to our main matting layer. So let's take our tape off, bring in the tape. Your tape runner from Crafter's Companion, that will work, or your tacky glue will also work as well. I'm going to keep this flat. The only depth I'm going to have with foam pads is with the sentiment. Work our way round. My white matting layer is ½ an inch bigger all the way round. My black matting layer is just a couple of millimeters. Pokey tool, take the back end off, keeping it simple with the layers. If you want to bring in your pattern papers, you can do that. But as you can see here, having that ghosted silhouette feel, that your black and white layers work an absolute treat. Pop that in over the top. We're going to press that, hold that in, and this time we're going to go in with the best wishes. We're going to take that off with our foam pads, pop that down in the bottom right hand corner, and then there we go. We've finished our silhouette card with the ghosting effect, where we've used 2 of our colours, being the soft heather and the waterfall, and then created the highlight stamps as well. Just started to create that highlight all the way around, and that is another one of the projects that you can be making. It is from our craft club, it is from month number 12, and it is from our Duet Inkpads.